Prophet, a walking Quran with Shaykh Ahmad AlKurdy. So if you're from UCR, I'm sure he's a familiar face, but Shaykh Ahmad AlKurdy is alumnus from the Islamic University of Medina with a BA from the Faculty of Law. He received his training in Islamic Sciences and Arabic from Syria, Saudi Arabia, and the US. He's an instructor and faculty member of the New Muslim Academy. And like I said, he was raised in SoCal and serving the community at UCR. So without further ado, please give your full respect and undivided attention to Shaykh.
Assalamu alaikum. Can everyone hear? You guys on that coast, I don't want you to feel left out, but be comfortable, because I may forget to look that way. Is that okay? Yeah. Okay, alhamdulillah. Everyone's comfortable? Yeah. No? Yeah. If you're not comfortable, we got to fix that. Okay. How's the sessions been so far today? It's been positive? Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. So welcome to UCR. Again, another welcome. I am the Muslim chaplain here. So this is kind of like my second home. And we are talking about the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to get you guys to get up from your class. Alhamdulillah, we praise Allah and we ask Him to bless and honor and compliment the Messenger. And we ask Him to allow us to benefit from what we are about to learn. So basically this whole lecture is based on a particular narration that has a story. The story goes like this. It's a very long story actually in the collection of Muslim, the collection of the scholar named Muslim. It's not some random Muslim. There's some brothers who like make up a story and then they say narrated by a Muslim. Not as like you would think narrated by such and such scholar's name. So they say narrated by Muslim. That's just the random Muslim. This one is actually, his first name was Imam Muslim. So Imam Muslim has in his collection this story that a man came and he visited Aisha. Aisha happens to be the wife of the Messenger Muhammad, and her title officially is the mother of the believers. As per the Quran, the wives of the Messenger were called mothers of the believers. He said he had multiple questions for her. He had certain things that he wanted to learn about the law, the regulations of Islam. And then he says, "O mother of the believers, can you please inform me about the character traits of Muhammad, of the Messenger?" She says, "Don't you read the Quran?" Pay attention. "Do you not read the Quran?" He says, "Yes, I do. I'm a Muslim." You know, that type of question. Don't you read the Quran? She wasn't trying to offend him. She was just trying to get his attention. She says, the Prophet's character was the Quran. So that's where we get the title. Although the title is not exactly that. What is the title of the lecture? A Walking Quran. So a lot of people confuse this narration with that general statement. That statement is like a description. But can you be like a walking book? Do you characterize anyone as such? A walking book? We need to get to the bottom of this. What does it mean when we say his character was the Quran? In another narration, he says, "O mother of the believers, please inform me about the character of the Messenger." She says, "O son." So this tells us that this is when she became elderly. And she lived many years after the Prophet passes away to teach the community about a lot of the character traits, the regulations, and the private affairs of his life. Because, you know, he had a public life and a personal life. His personal life, though, was public. It was not classified. So basically, we know more about the Prophet's bedroom secrets than we know about our parents' bedroom secrets. This is a fact. Because this was commanded. This was commanded. So his life, nothing in it was secretive. He always showcased what he had, and it was a command that the community gets taught what he did in his private life. So considering that type of background, she says, "O son, don't you recite the Quran? God Almighty has said, وَإِنَّكَ لَعَلَى خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ." Surely, O Muhammad, so God here is addressing the Messenger. Sure, and a lot of passages in the Quran are addressed to him, although we still benefit from their meanings. But Allah is addressing him, and here He says, "Surely you are on the best character traits. Surely you are on the highest moral ethics." Now, what do the scholars extract from this? What do we understand? So his character is the Quran. So the first thing is adjust the title. His character was the Quran. Don't say he's a walking Quran. So a few scholars have said the following thing. They said the meaning of this is, number one, he acted upon the Quran. So that's how his character becomes the Quran. He acted upon it. Now, do we know anything about the Quran? Like, yeah, guy, we're Muslims. What are you talking about? So the Quran actually is a very interesting book. It wasn't compiled all at once. And it wasn't compiled by a human being. It's the speech of God. It came down over a period of 23 years throughout the messengership of the Prophet. This is important for us to realize. Now we have it as a final package in a book form. God did not send it as a book. Very important to realize. Over a period of 23 years, small passages, 5 to 10 verses, sometimes longer, sometimes shorter, would come to him and they would address things in that community. But the idea behind those verses was this is going to be everlasting rules and regulations for humanity in order for them to have a proper relationship with their Lord. So number one, to act upon it, he says. Number two, to stop at its boundaries. So the Quran draws some lines and it says those are red flags. Do not cross them. Do not trespass the limits of God. Then it says to apply the mannerisms and the character traits that are taught therein. Now it's also important to realize what's in the Quran. The Quran mainly is made out of 4 themes. This is important for us to understand again, because a lot of times when you get asked, so what's the Quran? People say, oh, it's the Muslim Bible. It's not really the Muslim Bible. That's an incorrect statement. The Quran, you have to know something about it. So 4 major themes. The main theme in the Quran is introducing people to God. God basically is identifying himself. A lot of you know something called Qul Huwallahu Ahad, right? What is that? Surah Al-Ikhlas, chapter number 112. What is the purpose behind that chapter? God is telling people, this is who I am. A formal introduction. You also know something called chapter 2, verse 255, Ayatul Kursi. Right? The greatest ayah, passage in the Quran. That's another place where Allah is introducing himself. So the main theme in the Quran is God introducing himself to humanity, telling them this is who I am and this is who I am not. So they don't have misconceptions about theology. Second main concept and theme in the Quran is stories of the past prophets, their communities, and the way people behaved with them, either accepting their messengership or rejecting them. What is the purpose of that? Is it trivia? Is it history? Not really. It's telling us that you guys are not the first ones to follow this path. People before you came and did the same thing, and there was 2 responses. One that was obedient to God and one disobeyed God. So you guys get to choose the path that you want. 2. 3, it includes rules and the regulations that are commanded in Islam. So basically the commands of God, for short. So this is where we hear a lot of the rules. But that's not what the Quran is all about. That's just one of the themes. So for example, don't kill, don't steal, don't fornicate, don't be immoral, don't cheat, so forth. This is all there within the Quran. And the 4th major theme in the Quran is character, mannerisms, and so on and so forth. So when she says his character was the Quran, applying what's in it, stopping at its boundaries, having the manners that it teaches, then learning from the stories that are mentioned therein. Something important about storytelling in Islam. If you pay any attention to the stories in Islam, we don't have too many details. So for example, if you're exposed to the Bible mentions names of people and numbers and locations and ethnicities. It mentions a lot of detail. The Quran doesn't mention detail at all. What's the purpose behind stories in Islam? The moral of the story. So that's why don't say, so what color was the dog of the people of the cave? That doesn't really matter. What breed was he? Also doesn't matter. What kind of cow was the cow in the chapter called the cow? Doesn't really matter. That's not the moral of the story. So picking up morals from stories, learning lessons from the stories. What else did he do? Reflected on the Quran and had an interactive relationship with it. You know, most of us Muslims, our relationship with the Quran is interesting. First of all, we don't know much about it, so we need to be educated about it. So I highly recommend that you introduce yourself to what the Quran actually is. But those of us who are actually trying to do good, we know that we're to recite it. And that every letter that we recite in it, we get so and so much reward. And you notice people start racing and competing with one another, specifically in the month of Ramadan. Because they say Ramadan is the month of the Quran, so they go and they read a lot, and they compete with one another. How many times did you complete the whole thing from cover to cover? That was not the purpose behind the revelation of the Quran. The purpose was to actually interact with the book. So to read with reflection, to read with contemplation, and to interact with it. So one of the stories of the Prophet is that when he would pray in Salah, when he would perform ritual devotion, he would actually interact with the verses. So he would say, for example, he would recite some verses and they talk about paradise. He would pause and he would say, "Oh God, allow me to enter into paradise." It would describe the truthful people and the believers. He would pause and interact with the verse, "Oh God, make me from amongst these people." He would read verses that talk about hellfire. He would stop and pause and say, "Protect me from it, don't make me go there." He would read verses talking about hypocrites, disbelievers, and he'd say, "Oh God, don't make me from amongst these people." That's called having an interactive relationship with the book. So the intention is not to just read it and to finish it off. The next thing he would do is he would recite it properly. So many of us, when we want to have a proper relationship with the Quran, we'll pick up like a course on tajweed, which is proper recitation of the Quran. Because it's not just like any other text. It has a particular way to be recited, with melody, with certain sounds that are not typical. And that has to be learned, and it's got to be learned by a teacher. You guys know something called tajweed? So that's part of the fact that the Messenger of Allah, his mannerisms was the Quran. Another scholar says the following. He says, the meaning of his character traits was the Quran is he has its character traits. Whatever the Quran speaks highly of, then the Messenger himself is fond of it. This is a key point. Whatever the Quran speaks highly of, the Messenger is fond of and he loves. Whatever the Quran speaks ill of, so you either have praise or, what's the opposite of praise? Help me out. You say praiseworthy or blameworthy. So whatever the Quran praises, the Prophet is in tune with. Whatever the Quran blames, the Quran says is negative, the Prophet himself dislikes and hates. This is very important for us, in order for us to have the character traits of the Quran. Because a lot of times, people may be committing a crime. And you're like, so what, man? It's a free country. Let them do whatever they want to do. That God says in His scripture, this is something despised to Him. Murder is despised. Lying is despised. Fornication, immorality is despised. What is our feeling towards those things? So the Prophet, they say, he would be in tune with the Quranic commands. The Quran says something is positive, he would love it. It says something is negative, he would hate it. Likewise, should be the character of the believers. Another scholar says, whatever the Quran commands, whatever the Quran prohibits, whatever the Quran promises, the Messenger was in tune with all of that. Then we have another statement by another scholar, again commenting on that. He says, whatever is included in the Quran and is praised by it and it's encouraged, then the Messenger himself loves it, encourages it, and calls others to it. The opposite is also true. Whatever the Quran blames or says is negative, the Prophet himself speaks out against. Now, because you have multiple emotions that you can go through whenever you see evil. You can either say, okay, let them do what they want, or you can say, you know what, that's not positive, or you can actually try to change it and speak out against it. Now, of course, you've heard some of the subjects in the lectures about justice and speaking out against injustice. But the greatest injustice is not giving God His due rights. But unfortunately, because of the environment that many people are in, they say, let them do what they want. In fact, they're very friendly to us, and they are our allies. But God does not like what they're doing. You should also not like what they're doing. That doesn't mean you have complete enmity with them, but let your compass be the Quran. Your moral compass be the Quran. I want to move on to the next stage. Can you give me the time, please? How much time do we got left? 20 minutes. Are you guys sleepy or not yet? Some of you are falling asleep. You want me to stand up?
No.
You want me to dance?
Yes.
I don't know how to. Sorry. The next section here. So, first of all, we said, what does khuluquhu al-Quran mean? His character was the Quran. The next stage here is, it is one of the rights of the messenger upon us, and I believe this is why this was included in our program, especially in these days where his integrity and his honor is being attacked. You may say, how is that? They don't even know who he is. Well, every Islamophobic attack is guess against who? Who is it targeting? If you look up Muhammad in any dictionary, what do they say? Founder of Islam, prophet of Arabia, came in the 7th century CE. So who do you think an Islamic phobic attack is really targeting? Do you think it's targeting sisters in scarves? Yes, partially. Do you think it's targeting people who kind of look like me? Or people that we see on TV? No. That's just a partial target. But who is the main target? The source. Who told you ladies to wear this? Why would you dress this way? So you go back to the source. So that's why in these days specifically, for us who claim to follow this messenger, it's very important to make sure we understand what his character truly was. Because a lot of people have tried to paint an ugly image of the messenger. And that's not right. We should get things proper. So one of those means of correcting things is called the study of his shama'il. Anyone familiar with this term, shama'il? Shama'il. What does shama'il mean?
Compilation of the hadith.
Huh?
It's like a compilation of important hadith.
No. It's? Come on. Don't be shy.
It's a description of the prophet.
Good. So it's called a description of his outer appearance and a description of his inner characteristics. Two things. So you have another theme in the study of the life of the messenger, which is called what? You guys know the name? Sirah, right? Do you guys know what sirah actually means? Sirah means his way. It comes from sayr. In Arabic, when you walk, it's called sayr. So sirah means tariqah, it means his way. So his biography is one section. Then in that same line of getting to know him some more, we have another section called shama'il, which is his character traits. His external appearance and everything that he did in life, including his behavior. So it's very important for us to know something about those shama'il, because, you know, if you don't know him, how can you claim that he's the messenger of God? And I just told you, we were informed about the most private things in his life. But if we don't know it, what does that say about us? Remember, what does it require to have someone enter into Islam? What do they have to do? Shahada. What's the shahada? Witnessing something, yeah? So Allah's oneness, God's oneness. Is that really the first part? Just witnessing that God is one? Yeah, actually rejecting all false gods and false beliefs and accepting the one true God. But then the second part, witnessing to what? Muhammad is his messenger. What does that word mean? Because we all say it. But what does it actually mean? It's just like this title. His character was the Quran, but we have to explain it in 10 minutes. What does Muhammad, the messenger of God, actually mean? The link between God's will for us and ourselves. Okay, what else? Yes?
We can argue that a messenger can be described as someone that messages both directions. So it could be a vessel for discussion or communication.
Okay, communication between God and the creation. Okay, what else? One more. So all you Muslims say Muhammad is Rasulullah, you got no clue what you're saying. Come on. I know you guys can do better than that. Huh? It actually has 4 meanings. Number 1, to believe in him and believe in everything that he said. Everything that he taught. Number 2, to obey him in everything that he has commanded. Number 3, to stay away from anything that he has prohibited and forbidden. And number 4, and this is the main one actually, is that God is only worshipped by the way that he showed. because God chose him to be the messenger for all of humanity, for all time. So basically the only way to God is Muhammad. That's what you're actually saying by saying La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. You're saying there's no God to be served except the one true God. And the only way, you said link, the only way to this one true God is the way shown by Muhammad. Which means what? You're going to have to know about him, and then you're going to have to follow his way. So that's why it's important for us to learn the Shama'il, to learn more about the Seerah. Because we're making a bold claim by saying, hey, this is the statement of faith, and it's the end of the story. So I'm going to quote what one of the scholars said about him, describing his character traits. He said the following. Number one, he was the most forbearing of people. Forbearance is the character trait when somebody does wrong to you, and you withhold your anger, and you're able to forgive them. So he was the most forbearing of all people. Number two, he was the most courageous and brave of all people. They said one time there was a huge boom in Medina, in the night. So everybody woke up, kind of got scared, and they're like, should I go out? Should I not go out? You guys ever have an experience like that? When you hear like something scary and you're like, you hide under the blanket? You think it's going to go away, right? Just hide. Just pretend it didn't happen. One time there was like, I think fireworks outside our window, and then some rocket came and hit our window. And my wife was like, did you hear that? I said, I don't know what you're talking about. Okay? So definitely, he wasn't like that. What happened is, some people eventually mustered up some courage and they left their homes, and they saw him coming back from outside the city, and he said, you guys are fine. He'd already taken care of whatever that was. He didn't say what it was. He just said, you guys are okay. Don't worry about it. So the most courageous of all the people. He was the most just and the most fair of all people. And that's a theme that we've had in this conference. Justice and the importance of justice. So he was the most just. So this is very important. Now, this is related to God being the most just. And that the regulations of God are the most just. But also the decree of God is just. Even when it's painful. You may lose a loved one. You may be feeling pain. Remember that God is just. So he's not doing you an injustice. He's not being unfair with you. But we have to know who God is. We have to know who the messenger is. He was also the most self-sufficient of all people. Meaning, he didn't ask for whatever other people had. And then it mentions some of the things about his social interaction. This is very important. You always hear this. And you're like, why would this be mentioned? He never touched the hand of a woman that was not lawful for him. Meaning either a close relative of his or a wife of his. He was the most generous of people. They say he used to be so generous that he did not fear poverty. There were some non-Muslims who came over to the city, and he told them, look, you see that valley? So basically it was like an auditorium or bigger than this, and it was full of sheep. Sheep and goats were the main, what? Material riches of the time. So a tribal leader came, and he tells them, how would you like to have all of that? So he's like, are you really kidding? Like, you don't know anything about me. He's like, how would you like to have that? He's like, are you kidding? He's like, how would you like to have this and more? He's like, sure. He's like, okay, so you can have double that. And he gave him all of that, which was something which was donated to the community. He's like, you can have it all. The man went back to his people. He says, I came to you from a man that does not fear poverty. This is like emptying your bank account, zeroing it out to someone who's in need. So basically, this is one of the proofs that he wasn't really into this for any material gain. He wasn't into this so he could have authority and power. He was into this to save people and to guide them to God. Now, his generosity was so great that when he would go to sleep at night, he wouldn't have any money in the house. I heard that one of our neighbors recently, he brought some contractor to dig a hole in his garage and to put the safe in there. Do you think why? I'm not going to tell you where the neighbor is. But you're like, where is that? So I didn't know. I'm like, okay, sure. Some guy wants to have a safe in his house. So then I heard some adults, because I'm still young, I don't know these adult conversations. And some adults were talking, and they said, the reason he's doing that is because the money is cash, and he doesn't want to pay taxes on it. Doesn't want to put it in the bank. Anyway, the Prophet did not sleep with any wealth in his possession. If there is anything extra that he owned, and he did not find anyone to give it to, and the nighttime falls, then he basically just gives it out. So the first person that comes, he just says, here, you can have it. What did he save in his house as far as food is concerned? He only saved staple foods for him and his family for up to a year. Staple foods that don't get bad, don't get ruined. He did not ask, he was never asked about something except that he gave it. This is amazing. You know, sometimes people tell you, oh, this is so nice, can I have it? And you're like, no, I worked hard for this. Whenever the Prophet was said, can I have that? He gave it. He never refused anyone's request. What else did he do in his